join us. There they go. As if by magic, they disappear, and as if by magic, they're going to be back now. I hope. Thank you, David, Scott. Gareth, well done. We're just waiting on Michelle and Lawrence, if they can accept the recording. Should be a little box at the top of your screens, guys, for you to accept the recording, if that's okay. Thank you, Lawrence. And so, Michelle, it's just you. If you can accept the recording.
Michelle, turn on your camera.
She needs to accept the meeting as well.
No, turning the camera will trigger the ask.
Yeah.
It's a possibility she might be on a phone due to the way that the angle of the camera was before we started recording, so it might very well be a different setup to the main screen.
Okay, well, I'll continue anyway, and then hopefully she'll join us. It's just that for co-opted members, our constitution says that in any meeting, if you're going to contribute to the meeting, you have to be visual on the screen. So I don't want to break any code of conduct or anything, but I'm sure she can hear us and it'll be okay. I'll make sure my phone is also on in case there are any connection issues. Okay, so Prynawn da pawb. Good afternoon and welcome to the Aspirational Scrutiny Committee on Monday the 8th of September, and as I said, it is recorded for training or public purposes. So agenda item number 1, apologies for absence. We've got our colleague Jeff Beard has given his apologies, and aside from that, I think, as I said, we have a full house. So welcome everybody. Item number 2, declarations of interest. So just to remind all, if you have a declaration of interest, please notify me now. Okay, there are none noted, so we'll continue on. Agenda item number 3, which is a new one for scrutiny committees, and it is minutes of previous meetings. And for scrutiny committees, I'll just talk you through it. It is just to approve the accuracy of the minutes of the meeting that we had on the 30th of June 2025, to note and agree those minutes. So if, first of all, I ask if there are any issues regarding accuracy of the minutes. If not, can I see a show? Guests are waiting in the lobby. Sorry, I'm just noticing something, so I don't know if we want to invite those guests in. It's wrong. Okay. So, as far as the minutes are concerned, can I have a show of hands to accept those minutes of the 30th of June then, please, so we can note it? And yes, you can just show me a hand on screen or virtually. That's lovely. Thank you ever so much. And so those minutes are noted and accepted, and we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which are the action logs that we have. And just to let colleagues know that we have 2 actions outstanding. One is information on ALN, that will be emailed to us all shortly. And 2, information for the risk workshop that was circulated today. So we did have some previous information, some further information was circulated to us today, and hopefully you can join us at that risk workshop. Agenda item number 5 then, we'll move on to the main body of the agenda, which is elective home education, commonly abbreviated to EHE. And we have our Cabinet Member for Education, Gareth Lewis, with us today. Gavin and Suzanne, thank you both for joining us. And members are to receive the report on elective home education. Gareth, are you going to take us through that?
I am indeed, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. Elective home education is when parents choose to educate their children at home rather than send them to school. This report outlines the current situation in Merthyr Tydfil, where the number of EHE learners has increased in recent years. The local authority is working to ensure that these children receive a suitable education, even though they are not in a formal school setting. The report highlights the importance of safeguarding, regular monitoring, and building strong relationships with families. It also notes that while some parents choose EHE for philosophical reasons, others do so to have concerns about bullying, unmet special education needs, or dissatisfaction with the school system. The Council is committed to supporting families through guidance, home visits, and collaboration with other services, and the report also acknowledges challenges such as limited legal powers to enforce educational standards and the need for better data sharing between agencies. The report also indicates a need for a balanced approach respecting parental choice while ensuring every child's right to a quality education and safety. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gareth. Much appreciated. And just to add, during our pre-meet last Thursday, my colleagues discussed with me just some of the data that was currently available regarding EHE, and also just some queries around some of the categorisations or ethnicity as well. So you should have received some tables today just giving some of the latest Welsh data and some of the ethnicities as of January 2025. So just wanted to remind colleagues of that as well. But undoubtedly, as this is a scrutiny committee, we can explore that further this afternoon. So thank you, Gareth. Therefore then, colleagues, I open it up to everybody else. Are there any questions on this agenda item? I'm going to bring Paul in first.
If I may, thank you for the report. It was very interesting to compare then the report against then the actual guidance then. Can I just clarify with you, if I may then? The guidance says it's statutory guidance to local authorities on home education. Where within the guidance then from Welsh Government it says must, I'm assuming that we are committed that we will always do that. Where it says should, we would normally do it unless there was good reason and we would justify that. And where it says may, and that's an option extra. Correct. Okay, right. If I can, as you may know, I've gone into the data to try and do a comparison between ourselves and others. And I can see then what Welsh Government have produced. Thank you very much for that, Gavin, then. And I've got to look at that then today. But if I can start, first of all, then with where we are in the report, which 4.10 tells us that 72.8% of Merthyr parents have chosen to engage with the LA. These are the ones then, the limited number of pupils, I should say children, who decided then to opt out of education. It goes on to say a further 6.2% of parents provided evidence of suitable and effective education be delivered, but without direct engagement. And then that leaves us then with 21%. So I'm interested to explore then compliance and enforcement actions. First of all, the guidance from Welsh Government says that we should then see and communicate directly then with the children annually. Now, am I right in assuming that we have the 21% where we've had no engagement, plus the 6.2%, in other words, more than a quarter of all the children in the borough who are home educated, we've had no direct engagement with in the last 12 months?
Okay, so the 6.2% relates to parents who mainly keep us informed of suitability of education via a written report. So they don't see us face to face, but they still satisfy us that a suitable education is being delivered. The 21% is mostly made up of families who are awaiting a visit. So we may well have seen them at some point during their learning journey as elective home education, but until such a time as the local authority is satisfied that a suitable education is in place, they are added onto the CME, the Child Missing Education Database, and that's what most of that 21% is. So as soon as we are satisfied that the education is in place, either by a visit or by a written report, then they come off that database. So that figure is a movable feast.
Okay, so but 6.2%, we haven't engaged with the child.
Can you bear with me a second? Colleagues online, can you just mute yourselves, please? I can see 3 colleagues up. Thank you. Okay, sorry, carry on.
So 6.2%, we haven't engaged with the child at all.
That's right.
Okay, is there a reason behind that, why we haven't?
Because parents have chosen not to have any engagement.
Even though Welsh Government say what we should, and in the absence of seeing an engagement with the child who has the right then to choose whether or not they want to accept home education or not, we are to accept that it's a negative.
So the statutory guidance states that parents don't have to engage with a local authority at all. The statutory guidance also states that for us to do our job properly and ensure that a suitable education is taking place, it's helpful for us to see the child. If a parent refuses, then they have to satisfy us through other means. But they're not obliged to have contact with us at all.
But how can we be satisfied that this is what the child wishes if we are not actually communicating with the child directly?
It does make our job very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's frustrating, I'll be honest with you. It's not an easy job, but even with those parents who communicate with us via a written report, we are really stringent in making sure that that evidence that they provide us with is pertinent to the progress of the child. It's been produced by the child, so they have to evidence in some way, and it's entirely up to them how they do that. That evidence is from the child, it's suitable for the child's age and progress. So really the onus is on parents to satisfy us, and it does become difficult, I would totally agree with you, in the absence of seeing the child. But that unfortunately is what the statutory guidance sets.
Okay, so that leads us on to then from compliance then into enforcement action. The report doesn't cover that. Have we taken any enforcement action, let's say, in the past 12 months?
Yes, we have.
And what are the figures on that? How many? And what has been the outcomes, and what type of enforcement action have we taken?
Okay, so the enforcement action that we are allowed to take is set out clearly in legislation.
Yes.
Through school attendance orders and...
Which is the school attendance orders, for the record,
yes,
is the first step.
That's right.
The next stage then is the
So there's 3 stages to the school attendance order process. The first one is just a letter to parents informing them that this is the route that we are going to go down if they can't provide us with suitable evidence of an education. They have 15 days to come back to us, respond and evidence that education is in place. If that doesn't happen, then we will name a school that child should go to.
Which is the school attendance order. It dictates then that's the school we expect your child then to begin to attend.
That's the notice. We name the school, but parents even at that point have an opportunity to come back and stop the action by evidencing that the education is suitable. They can also register the child in a different school as long as they let us know. The final part is the order. So after all of those steps have been completed, if the local authority is still not satisfied that an education is in place, then we will start court proceedings to get that child back onto school roll.
Okay, and we have done so in the past 12 months?
We have.
On how many occasions?
We've done, off the top of my head, around about 11 actions to date.
And the outcomes, please?
Most of the parents will start to engage with us after the first initial letter. But we have got to the point with one where the school attendance order is now in place and we're waiting for confirmation that child has gone back to school.
Okay, and for those who then began to comply, are we reviewing that then closely to see whether or not either the EHE is of a standard or the child is now attending then a normal school?
Once that child is in school, the responsibility is passed over to the school.
Okay.
But
they come off the EHE register?
They come off our register, and then the school becomes responsible for monitoring their progress and checking on their attendance. If the child continues to be electively home educated, then we will then start our cycle all over again. We'll offer the 6 monthly visits just to check that everything is in place.
Do you mind if I continue?
No, please do.
How, when we actually engage then with the parents and the child, how are we actually then determining then whether the standards are met? Considering that we've got children from the age range of year 1 to year 11, how do we actually do that?
So I think it's important to know from the statutory guidance that parents don't have to follow the national curriculum.
Yes.
So a suitable education might look different for one child from another child. We have to look at the child in a holistic fashion and see what fits for them.
That's understood.
And
But how do we, for example, is it all down to you, for example, to do then the gauging whether or not it's met or not met in terms of standards? Is it one person?
I've got a small team with me, but generally the determination of suitability is mine as an education professional. So I've gone through the training and all of that. So I know what
as an education professional, are you a trained teacher?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That was another question. Continue, please.
So looking at each child in isolation, the first thing we do is discuss with the parents what their vision is for that child's education. We discuss how they're going to put that into place, what they need, and then that forms the basis then of all of our visits. So we use that as our baseline starting point. And then it's not our job to assess progress or mark work or check what they're learning. It's our job to make sure that what that parent is delivering, so really be there to monitor the parent. So our job is to make sure that the parent is delivering what they're telling us is suitable. If that makes sense.
It does. Can I now refer then to the data? The data shows that in the past 5 years, tell me if I got this wrong, the numbers in Merthyr on EHE register have doubled. The funding, what funding do we receive then from Welsh Government?
Do you want to explain that to
Yeah.
the grant situation?
So at the moment, all local authorities across Wales, it doesn't matter what their numbers, they all receive the same amount of grant funding, which is £50,000 per local authority, and a small pupil grant of just under 10, which is used to try to engage with families who don't normally engage with us. That small pot of money for pupils is used for things like enrichment opportunities that they wouldn't normally get, that they would get in school. So things like forest schools, science workshops, arts workshops. We've had a planetarium in, so they've had like 360 degree. So it's there really to provide the sort of things that they would enjoy in school. So that's a small grant. They can also claim that down for resources or anything really to do with the children's education, provided it can be demonstrated that it is for their education.
So the 50,000 grant is separate then from the £9,746 that was being paid by Welsh Government to us in 2021. Has that £9,746 changinged in recent years?
Nothing has changed. It's the same funding now as it was when it was originally.
So even though demand has doubled, because I looked at the Welsh Government website and there was a Freedom of Information request of the 18th of March 2024, which listed then how much was being paid to each local authority. I can't reconcile this with demand. Now, it's accepted that Merthyr has the lowest number of children, but also the smallest local authority, and therefore the £9,746 is seems to be commensurate with that. However, it doesn't seem to relate then to any of the numbers of children they have. And of course, what we've seen in the past 5 years across Wales is 171% then increase then in the numbers who are EHE. It's not just a problem for Merthyr, it's a problem for everyone. But today we are looking to see whether or not we are utilising that money properly and whether or not our means are actually effective then or not. Do we make representation then to Welsh Government, because the funding hasn't changed for 5 years, but your workload has doubled, and yet we're not getting any extra money for it? The children have doubled, and therefore their needs have increased.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I sit on there's a national EHE working group with Welsh Government, WLGA. In one sense, the fact that Welsh Government have given £50,000 to each local authority means we sort of have, as a small local authority, disproportionately benefited from that. But even as it stands, Suzanne did mention we've had to engage extra capacity with the workload that we're taking from other grants to be able to support the work. But Welsh Government are very aware from 22 local authorities the pressure in the system, and Welsh Government are not currently looking to increase, as far as we're aware, the grant that is available.
Okay, can I ask a different question, if I may? And I'll be very quick now.
No, please do. Paul.
This is about compliance then with the Welsh Government regulations, if we're accepting that we should do. The regulations say that we should then display our policy as they do on their website, on our website. And I haven't seen it. I've looked up the website and it covers thinking about elective home education. What next? What if my child has additional learning needs? There are separate pages for that. But the policy which we have is not there. The second thing which was a little niggle is the fact that it does say in the policy from Welsh Government that we should have a named officer, and we haven't got that. We simply say contact the EHE team at so on, but it actually says named contact.
That's quite deliberate, because I find that if there is a named, as in it would be Suzanne, there's that direct contact. So I would, I made that. I'd asked you to do that because it was Suzanne's named on it.
Which is why I came back
to the
point in law at the beginning. If it should, then presumably we've documented that somewhere so that should there be an audit by anyone, we're okay. Okay, I've taken up too much of your time. Thank you, Chair.
No, Paul, it's some great questions there. It's absolutely fine. Never apologise. No problem at all.
Chair, can I just respond to
please do,
bit
Gav.
about the policy? So we updated the policy over the summer.
Yes.
There was a commitment that the policy would go. So we updated the website over the summer. There was a commitment that the policy that had previously been on the webpage would be reattached by IT. So it should be there. We'll make sure that it's returned back on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gav. Thank you, Suze. I'm going to go to Lawrence online next. Oh, Clive, I'll come to you after Lawrence. He's been waiting patiently. Is that okay? Thank you, Lawrence.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just first of all, just to check with Suzanne, you probably did cover this. When you talked about the school attendance orders as regards Paul's questions, does that cover the numbers that you quoted? Did that cover all sort of elective education at school, at home rather, not just the ones that we're talking about, the missing ones?
That was the pupils who are not receiving a suitable education, not the ones who are on the child missing education database. The ones that have been issued with statutory attendance action are the ones that there is no suitable education in place at all. So it's separate to the CME database.
Right. So on that basis, then, has there been a need then to take any other actions against any of the other parents who have been, if you like, seem to be wanting in terms of the education?
Of the 21%, do you mean? Is that what you mean?
Well, generally, right across the board.
If parents don't have a suitable education in place, then we do take school attendance order action. They get 3 opportunities to engage with us, and then our policy states that we start to engage them in school attendance order action.
Yeah, well, again, that is a situation then where the information from what you mentioned, you get reports back or some sort of information as to the quality of the education that's being provided. So what I'm wondering is, if you find that there's something lacking, then have you had to take the situation to the extent of a SAO?
In one occasion, yes, we've done that. We've gone through to court action, but that was
Right.
resolved
Right.
prior to the court hearing. So yes, we have done that on one occasion.
Okay, I just wondered the sort of frequency of it. That's all. Thanks. Then what I noticed of, thanks for the data that was sent to us. No, is, well, following that, just a general one, sorry, let's go back to that, because I was reading that in terms of safeguarding. So in terms of safeguarding, you mentioned in the report the actions you take, like these SAOs, etc. Has there been any issues as regards from a safeguarding point of view regarding elective home educated children stroke families?
Yes, we've had occasion to take some action regarding safeguarding. At the moment, we have 2 cases, one of whom is on the CP register, the other one is the subject of a CASP. And in those cases, our action is accelerated, so I get to see them every 4 weeks. I attend all of the meetings, the CASPs, the reviews, the conferences, the strat meetings, so I am heavily involved in safeguarding cases.
Yeah, okay, then it sounds that just when you mentioned about child protection, I would have thought that that's a very significant area to be concerned about. And yeah, it's a bit of a worry that perhaps they're not being as monitored as one would expect. Not your fault, it's just the system.
Yeah, in Merthyr, we do actually carry out our visits more frequently than any other local authority. The guidance states that we need to make contact once a year. In Merthyr, we are once every 6 months, but we are always on hand to speak to our families. We've got a really good social media presence, which is a closed group where they know that they're in a safe space. So we're always there to provide that additional support for them.
Okay. Yes, so regarding the data, as I say, thanks to Gavin for sending the data, and there was some interesting graphs contained with the data which showed the distribution of ages of the elective home educated children. And I noticed from the ages of 11 to 16 that there was, admittedly, the similarities across Wales, so it's not particular to Merthyr, but of the total number from 5 to 16, there's a significant increase after primary school age, up to 15. So from 11 to 15, you can see it rising, and then it reduces dramatically down to 6 when they're 16. Can you sort of suggest why that might be the case?
Lawrence, can I come in? At 16, of course, then there's only a need for mandatory school education up until the 30th of June in the year in which the child becomes school year, but they become then age 16. So presumably, my understanding and reading of it is that they just drop off the register. They become NEETs then at that point rather than EHE. Is that correct?
The data comes from PLASC in January, so it is well known that and historically year 11 a very much smaller number of pupils come out EHE. So it is interesting. It's remarkable, really, isn't it, that the numbers just across Wales and including Merthyr, they just drop dead. So there is an element where, for whatever reason, some of that will be parents not removing them. But it can't solely be the cut-off date, because the cut-off date is after PLASC.
For the record, your figures show that 75% of all those who opt out then from year 7 to years 11.
Absolutely, yeah, or to year 10 largely. Yeah, although it's by Welsh Government data is by age, so there'll be some that may be in year 11. Yeah, straddle the two.
If I can just add that the majority of our year 11 cohort won't have reached 16 by the date of PLASC, so they will be 15. So what you find in that 15 age category, you've got a lot of year 11s in there as well.
I don't know whether Lawrence was part of your query why the increase was between year 7 and 10
as well. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you want
as well.
Well, it's a variety of things really. Primary school tends to be a much more costed setting for children. It's when they reach that point where they're transitioning into secondary school. We find that anxiety plays a large part in it. We also find that attendance is a big issue as well. So there's lots of issues surrounding the reasons that parents choose to withdraw their children from school. And it does tend to be in the secondary years.
Yeah, but no, I see that. But as you say, if you look at the graphs, you can see different age levels to rise up, as you say, for what the reason you said. But it just really raises the question. Then the motivation of the people who make those decisions is not perhaps particularly, how can I put it? As you say, if it's attendance, that's not really a good reason as such. It's just a cop-out, and therefore the education that perhaps they provided might be minimalistic, but it's not really achieving what you would like to see, isn't it? And it's not that ideological either, because otherwise, if it's ideological, you'd expect perhaps there are certain families who are out all the time, and the fluctuation is because some families come in and some families come out. But again, it just raises the question. It's why it fluctuates, and those decision making is perhaps dubious and very, as I say, at a whim. Then put it that way.
Or as a reaction as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Okay, if it's, as you said, it could be bullying or something like that, fair enough. Things like that, which one would like to be addressed. But otherwise, the numbers, and as you say, because it's doubled, as Paul very nicely sort of set up earlier, it just makes you wonder what is the true motivation behind those figures, that's all. And I just wondered whether you had some real sort of thoughts about that with your experience.
So then, do you want to talk to the discussions that you have with the parent when they come out, and then the discussions you'll have with the school about that?
Yeah, so we do try wherever possible to get in quite early and have a discussion with parents, just to make sure they understand what elective home education is and what they're taking on. The problem that we have with that is that if that deregistration letter hits the head's desk, they have to withdraw that child from school. So for our part, we try to get in there as soon as we know that there is an indication that a parent would like to go down the route of home education, but it's not always possible. We work really closely with schools. I sit on the needs review panels just so that I'm aware of which pupils may be coming our way. And we work really closely so that if a parent has approached a school, then I can offer my services to go in and have a chat. It is quite difficult though, because once a parent has made that decision and put that letter in, then that child is removed from school and put on the register. There's very little we can do about it at that point.
Right, just add as well. We obviously saw the picture in the last year because we saw a significant increase in the last year. But that didn't all come at the end of the year. We could see some of that increasing as the year went on. So we actually, in Sue's name, actually wrote to the secondary heads where there is a greater prevalence of EHE pupils to raise that awareness, to ask them if they were aware of any kind of early intelligence information that a parent was considering EHE. Please get in contact with us or arrange a meeting with the parent to talk it through with them. We saw some success with that. We saw some opportunities where we were able to nip it in the bud. But quite often parents will make that determination without any discussion with the school, whether that's ideologically or as a reaction or under issues around attendance. And then that makes it very difficult because the guidance basically says the trigger is the formal letter to the head teacher, and then they have to come off roll because that's the trigger. So we will be contacting the head teachers, secondary heads again, to see if there's any way, if there's any flexibility in that. So where it talks about the head teacher, normally the clerk will get it before it goes to the head teacher. Is there any way that we can somehow introduce a mechanism where it comes into the school, but it hasn't gone to the head teacher yet, so we can see it? We're just trying everything we can to get in early, to have those discussions. Where it's legitimate, then fine, crack on. Where there are issues that maybe we think that there are other agencies involved, or there's a query around suitability or efficient education, that we're able to maybe intervene a little bit earlier. But it's very hard once that letter's got to the head teacher, because the decision is then made.
Thank you both. Lawrence, back to you.
Thank you. That's fine. On this then, do we know what the success rate is for EHE children in terms of exams? Do we know what that is?
We don't monitor that.
We provide opportunity for them in terms of so we facilitate basically them being able to access their exams. So we have bases available whereby we can offer that. But what we don't do is have any involvement in what exams they sit and then the outcomes, because that will obviously go directly to them.
Okay, that's strange, because therefore we've got no idea then the quality of education that those children have had, to understand whether they've fallen through the cracks, so to speak. Okay, thanks. I understand, it's not your problem. It's a social problem.
The exams at all. That's the thing. That there's no requirement to follow the curriculum, and there's no requirement for them to sit GCSEs or anything. So it is very limited, the opportunities the local authority has.
Yeah, true. If a child who's educated at home as ALN, to what degree would you be able to support them in those sort of situations, if that was the case? Or have you got any examples?
Yeah, we've got a number of children on the register at the moment with varying degrees of additional learning needs. The situation for children with learning needs is no different to the situation if they were in school. So they're still entitled to IDP reviews, they're still entitled to request support, they're still entitled to receive support. How that support looks varies between child and child. But generally, the situation is in place. We have really good relationships with ALN and EP colleagues, so we get together regularly and discuss children and their needs. We go out and do joint IDP reviews just to make sure that the parent is able to provide suitable education in line with their additional learning needs in the house.
Just wondered if agencies or some other specific skill then is required to assist those children. Have we got examples of that? Is that able to be done at home?
We don't have any children at the moment who need additional support at that level.
Yeah.
However, should we have children who, for example, need Braille support, then we would work with our ALN colleagues to make sure that that was in place.
Okay. Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Lawrence. Clive had his indicated first one, then I'll come to you. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Clive.
I just wondered if there are any long-term studies on the effect of home teaching, particularly when children go to school, they mix with people and they have the rough and tumble of life. But then if you're being taught at home, they seem to lead a very sheltered life. And has any study ever been done along those lines to see the effect of home teaching?
So a suitable education, as it's set out in the guidance, includes socialisation and physical activity. So all of that should form part of what a parent is providing for that child. Some parents are better at it than others. We've got children who are really sociable. They go out, they do all sorts of trampolining, they meet people, they're quite heavily involved with church groups. But that is something that we pick up in determining what a suitable education looks like. So that's just as important as maths and English.
Yeah. Oh,
We have had a number of children who are actually home educated in the youth orchestra as well. So you've had examples where they have been part of the Tydfil Youth Orchestra, but they're not a school, they're not in a school,
Yeah.
they've been electively home educated.
Oh, that's nice. The other question I was wondering, most travellers these days stop to stay in a permanent residence, but what happens if there are travellers that sort of move around the country to different boroughs? Do you get involved with those? It's very difficult.
That's my other hat.
Oh,
It's a different subject altogether. Really.
Yeah, it's my other hat. But we have, at the moment, we have 4 children from the travelling community on the EHE register. Again, it's quite a challenge to keep a track on where they are. So once they move out of the local authority, we try to let the receiving authority know where they are so that they can then put their provision in place. While they're with us, the situation is exactly the same. So we will monitor their education and make sure that the families have got everything they need.
oh, thanks.
Thanks, Clive. And I think with our traveller community, because we have been, heavily supportive of them and we've for a number of years, but you usually find as well, especially males, that they tend to they keep them in the primary setting, but then tend to take them out as soon as they reach a secondary age, because they tend to work then with the fathers, with the family and all that, but yeah. Clive, is that okay?
Oh, yes, thanks.
Paul, I'll come back to you and then I'm going to go to David.
Okay, 2 points of clarification. If we could continue then with that discussion around opting out of secondary schools. At 412, the report says, the LA has a responsibility to advocate on behalf of all children. Available data is used to identify trends of deregistration and to challenge schools if there are concerns. Now, when I look at what we need to do next at 6.3, the second bullet, provide appropriate challenge to all schools where there is evidence of schools pressurising parents to remove a child from school roll. It says then to provide appropriate challenge. It doesn't say to build on or continue. So it seems to be contradictory. I'm assuming that you are actually then doing a trend analysis at this moment in time. Is there any indication that there is more opt-out from a given, without naming, a secondary school than any others, which are disproportionate then to the whole?
Apologies if there's a disconnect. We've been monitoring the schools in terms of at what point pupils come out and become EHE well, you've probably been doing it for forever. Across our secondary, we're not seeing, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not seeing one particular one that is spiking above the others.
Good.
We do know that there are, that at secondary, September is a bit of a pinch point. And we're aware of that. We're also aware, I think there's one other pinch point, which is that in the spring term or the summer term?
It's round about May.
About May.
Yeah.
So the reason why we're having a further communication with heads at this point is because we're aware of that spike in September, and we'll do the same again. We'll run up to what was previously a spike, and we'll do the same toward the end of the spring term.
You're alarming me because you said at secondary, and then you haven't mentioned primary. Are you trying to tell me that there is some evidence of primary of one school being out of kilter or some?
No, the numbers of primary are really quite
25% of the total.
Yeah. So what happens at primary is you may get a spike from an individual school, but when you look at it, it relates to one family where 2 children have been taken out, and that's what's caused that kind of spike. So in terms of trends that stand out, we haven't seen that at primary, but we have seen it at secondary.
Okay, and you are aware of my pedantry, so I'll warn you now. 4.9, if I can refer you to them, please. As of the 16th of January 2024, Merthyr Tydfil's overall rate per 1,000 EHE pupil population rose by 3.2% to 9.8%. Shouldn't percentage points come off that? It's not 9.8% of all the pupils, because if that's the case, then we would have had then more than 98 children then at that point in time. So it's just a question of just removing the percentages.
It's a welcome adjustment. Yeah, it's a rate, so it's 3.2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thanks, Paul. Very, very interesting. And just to add as well, Gavin and I have just come out of a corporate parenting board, and one of the top 5 reasons that children, you know, they were assessing children's mental health, perhaps some childhood traumas, etc. Anxiety came out in one of the top 5, didn't it, Gav?
Yeah.
As well, you know. So when we talk about perhaps why our children, you know, are facing some of these issues, and then EHE happens, anxiety really is ranking quite high. Thank you. David Isaac, I'll come to you.
Thank you, Chair. I am aware that some of these home educators often form groups amongst themselves to form social interaction, answering one of Clive's problems. They also go on trips to these what are they, glass domes where they got plants, etc., to do school trips as such. Are we aware of any of these home educators in the borough forming these type of groups?
I'm aware that there are groups that form socially, but I'm not aware of any particular groups. We're not party to them. They tend to exclude the local authority from things like that. But no, I'm not aware of any particular groups, to be honest with you.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome, David. Colleagues, I am conscious of the time. Therefore, I'll take one last question if there is one. I'm just looking around the room. Okay, Nat.
I appreciate that head teachers are responsible for the day-to-day running of the schools. You said that you've written to the heads to speak about them. Do you involve a governing body in any way, or keep the chair of governors?
Yeah, chair of governors too.
Okay, thank you.
But obviously the head teacher is the crucial one, because that's the where
And obviously that's part of their day-to-day running, yeah. But then as obviously I'm a primary parent governor representative, so it's just making sure that I my colleagues will be kept informed as well.
Thank you, Nat. Colleagues, I wish to make an observation. I don't know if there are any other observations from anybody that anybody wants to make while we draw this particular agenda item nearing its close. Nat?
Observation. I think it's a very challenging experience to manage, because I mean, how do you, when parents don't want to engage or you don't get to see the children, it must be very challenging for you to be able to make those decisions that children are safe and that they are being educated and they've got a full rounded education at home as well.
Yeah.
So
And I think that's evident through some of the questions that we've had today and some of the answers that we have as well, because of the statutory obligation or lack of, if you like. You know, it's an eye-opener, isn't it? It's a very interesting subject, and just very quickly I shall share with you that, and I think I touched upon this in our pre-meet last week, but last week I just met a friend of mine who was children the same age as my children, who EHE'd, elected to homeschool her children, and one did want to go into secondary school and did, and it was through their faith. And I have to say, I've never met such well-rounded, articulate children. You know, really fantastic family environment. Obviously, I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but it gives you some insight, you know, as to, you know, all matter of families and children that our staff here are dealing with, you know. So it's really, really interesting. And thank you, Suzanne and Gavin, for answering those, you know, those questions as well, because it really does give us some insight as a scrutiny into this. Paul?
One observation, obviously 39% of the children are EHE according to the data supplied then because of attendance issues and criminal proceedings. That worries me. I fully elect, and I also know a family who provided excellent education then to the children, and then in the borough, they opted then at year 12 to take the child into school in Aberdare, and then she's done very well then there. But it's that 39% who are trying then to game the system worries me more than anything else, and I think we need to keep a close eye on that.
Yeah, I think we do. I think Suzanne has quite clearly again expressed what the team does, and also the multi-agency approach and being on different other safeguarding committees as well, to be mindful of whom those families are as they are presented to us, or we become aware of them. So I've no doubt that you follow them through a number of different years as well, through that schooling years. And then last but not least, for the Cabinet Member Gareth Lewis and myself, where we go to 6.0 to 7.0, what we need to do next. I'm sure, speaking on behalf of Gareth, that as chair of this committee as well, you know, Gavin, if there's anything that Gareth and I can do in support of that disparity with regards to funding for the local authority, when you're talking to the group, EHE group with the WLGA, then Gareth and I will quite happily write to express what we've done in Scrutiny today and lend our hand to support you, just to have another voice, really. So I know that I can see Gareth nodding, so I'm sure that we would quite happily do that in support.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you, colleagues, Suzanne and Gavin and Sue, thank you ever so much. As Paul quite rightly said, it is very interesting, you know, there's some areas that we could follow up in the future as well, or even talk to some of our colleagues in, I've forgotten the name of is it Healthy Scrutiny? I've forgotten the name of the other scrutiny, I do apologise. I think it's Healthy. Apologies. And we could pick that up as a joint scrutiny as far as safeguarding and what have you as well. But thank you ever so much, guys. Really appreciate it. For those colleagues staying with us in the room and online at the moment, the next agenda item is the forward work plan. And I just want to remind everybody that quite rightly, we have some gaps within our plan in November, January, March and April. And as you know, we do this not because we want to squeeze everything in, but we do this because often throughout the year, things come to our attention and we like then to either bring them in as a scrutiny item or have a workshop on it or do a visit to a school, etc. But we know that we want ALN and attendance to come back up again, so no doubt we'll agree those. And just to remind everybody, that we are having these discussions at our workshop towards the latter end of September, where the second half of our workshop is to look at forward work programme. But what I would like to ask you is if you can agree the draft forward work programme as it stands at the moment, and we'll always take that conversation forward. And as I said, it will continue to evolve anyway, post our workshop as well. So is that okay with everybody? Yeah? Okay. The next item on the agenda is scrutiny. Get your teeth in, Lisa. Scrutiny referrals. I have none at the moment. We do put it out on social media. We also mention it in our contact magazine as well, just so we can make sure that, you know, we encourage members of the public to also refer to us, but we have none at the moment. Agenda item number 8 is feedback on scrutiny activities. Just another reminder that we have the workshop on the 22nd of September, and also that we do need to discuss the forward work programme within that session, and then just pick back up with our colleague Jeff the Mark Task and Finish group as well, so we can include that as we move forward. Okay. Agenda item 9, any other business deemed urgent by myself. I just want to check, it's 16:55. Those virtual colleagues with me, my actual colleagues in the room, I'm sure are going to join me now in committee room 3 and 4 with our MT Boyth young people. The virtual colleagues in the room, can you just give me a hand up if you're going to stay online and join us in that, so we can just transfer the laptop, one of our laptops over?
I'm going to physically join you, Lisa.
Oh, you physically come in. Okay, if you're coming from what looks like the TARDIS into committee room 3 and 4. Okay, thank you, Gareth.
Thanks.
Michelle, you're going to join us, and David Isaac, you're going to join us, yeah? Okay, so what we'll do is we're going to move your laptops. We're going to move Jane's laptop to 3 and 4, so bear with us. You may switch off, but then join back in, or we'll call you back into that virtual room to join us in committee room 3 and 4 as we just gather our belongings and walk through the corridor. Is that okay? Those who aren't joining us, thank you ever so much again for your contributions today. I really do appreciate it, and I shall see you, if not on the 22nd, if you can't join us, I will see you at our next scrutiny committee. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you ever so much. Thanks, guys.
In Australia, there's no requirement for Aboriginal children to go to school. And a lot of the towns now are chaotic because they're all out of school, like, you know.
I'll just go and see our young people in 3.